When we had last left the Envoy, their adventures took them finally into Paradise, the city itself, not just the outskirts, not just the Strangle Route, and certainly not just Claviger's Landing. They finally arrived in Paradise, and they were shot and killed by some unknown bowman. And it was there that they went into the wheel in their spirit form and were actually stopped by some sort of mysterious godlike not godlike, but deific figure. Who was it? Nobody could say for sure. They had trees on their shoulder, though, and they also sent them back to the land of the living lands, as it were. They sent them back to the land of the living. Oh my god. But they did that, and then they were there, and everybody was super freaked out by the fact that they came back from the dead. Something that normally doesn't happen that often. And so, it was time to check in with Ambassador What's-His-Butt. This is Avowed. Welcome back. Zoop. There we are. And let's do exactly that. You're not the ambassador, are you?
Envoy.
Are you the ambassador?
I'm glad to see you on your feet. Kai.
What, did y'all fuck too?
I'm surprised they let you in here.
I'm surprised you're still gainfully employed.
Perception 4 or 04. Might 4-3. Do we have a problem here? You two know each other? Whatever's going on between you two, keep it to yourselves. Might 4-3. We have a problem here?
I didn't mean anything by it, Envoy. He's just curious company for you to keep.
Hey, somebody has to have the envoys back, because you all sure didn't.
No one expected the Envoy to get assassinated.
Exactly. Amateurs.
You were expecting it. I think there's more to the story here. Whatever's going on between you two, keep it to yourselves. Is there more to the story here? Y'all fucking.
Well.
Kai?
Come on, it's funny. Tycg caused a ruckus last time he was slumming it at the Ballarrock. You were trying to kill a man, if I remember right. I had to put you outside.
You threw me into the canal.
You lived.
That water's filthy. I had the runs for 3 days.
Gods, Tycg. The Envoy doesn't need to know that.
Okay. Did you really try to kill someone, Tycg? Right, well, I've heard enough. Did you really try to kill someone?
The fellow cheated me. I couldn't let that slide. Or he'd think we were all marks.
It was over a dice game, right? Tycg here has a gambling problem.
Great. Let's air all my troubles. Is there anything else?
The bartender sleeping with your girlfriend.
You're lying.
You sure about that?
We'll talk about this later.
I'm not breaking up with her for you. Just so we're clear.
That's more than enough. Thank you.
Wait, so you are together with...
I could help you with, Envoy?
Tycg's former girlfriend, ex-girlfriend? Come on, Tycg. You're not going to stand up to Kai? I was hoping you might answer a few questions for me. I should go. How do you think this is meant? You're not going to stand up to Kai? No. Maybe Kai should be fucking your ex-girlfriend. Right? I don't fucking know. I was hoping you might answer a few questions for me.
Naturally, sir. How can I help you?
I'd like to understand Paradise better. The Emperor didn't brief me on the Living Lands. What do I need to know? I've been hearing a lot about this Inquisitor Ludwig. Who is she? I was told to meet with a Watcher, but I don't know anything about them. What can you tell me? You're the Ambassador's secretary. What's he like? I'd like to understand Paradise better.
What would you like to know?
When was the city founded? Who lives here?
If you're looking for a particular year, the first thing you should know about Paradise is that this isn't the kind of place where the locals keep records. And though it might be considered a distant backwater by the rest of the world, this city is the height of civilization by the standards of the Living Lands. As for who
What about the
calls this
Animancy
home,
place?
I suspect you could find a criminal, confidence man, or prophet from every civilization in the world here.
Really?
Hey, come on. You're gonna give the Envoy the wrong idea. We've got draft dodgers, courtesans, and revolutionaries, too. You know, all the fun people.
In any event, as far as I can tell, Paradise has been this way since its inception. Thus the eclectic display of architectural styles. If nothing else, this city is a reflection of the countless people who have passed through it on their way to the interior.
What are Aedir's intentions in Paradise?
Depends on who you ask. Ambassador Hylgard will tell you that our remit here is to establish a secure and orderly environment from which to engage in trade. Inquisitor Ludwig will tell you we're here to break the frontier.
So, which is it?
Why not both?
Perception 03. What about the Dream Scourge? I'd wondered something else about Paradise. What about the Dream Scourge?
That's where you come in. Whether you find your desires aligning with the ambassadors or the inquisitors, neither can succeed until the Dream Scourge is ended. We are only beginning to see its effects here in Dawnshore, but the closer to the center of the island you go, the worse it gets. That bear you and the ambassador encountered in the Strangle Route isn't even the worst of it. And the tide of this soul plague is rising higher every day.
How do the Paradisans feel about us?
Look, for all that I complain about this backwater, there are good people here. Same as anywhere else. People who want to be able to walk to the market in the morning for their bread and eggs and know they won't be mugged. People who like it when the mail comes on time, and their skates are made from real copper, and their neighborhood peeping Tom ends up in the stocks. Those people, good and honest people, who pay their debts and honor their contracts and remember to thank the gods, they like us a lot.
Tell me about the people who tried to kill me.
The Resistance, as such,
The Resistance.
are largely a group of misfits and criminals intent on undermining the rule of law. They take out loans with small Aedyran banking houses and do not pay them, then assault the bankers who attempt to collect. They agree to contracts with families in Aedyr seeking homes, and when their ships arrive, promptly abandon them. When we levy a small tax to fund the repair of city roads, they set our counting house on fire. And when our fishermen return to port, they board their ships and sink them.
That's certainly one way to characterize them. It's not exactly wrong, but it's not exactly right either.
For decades, people like them ruled this city through fear. We imposed order, and now they oppose us. You, unfortunately, were caught in the crossfire.
Well, I'd like to ask you about something else.
By all means.
The Emperor didn't have time to brief me on the Living Lands. What do I need to know?
There's a lot of ground to cover. Could you be more specific?
Okay, let's start from the top. How do the Living Lands and Aedyr compare on a map?
Ah, the age-old question. Who's bigger?
Camera pans to
Aedyr
Kai.
is, naturally, by a wide margin. And were we at the Cartographers Guild in High Crown, I could show you on one of the globes. As it is, we must make do in the theater of our minds.
Where are the Living Lands in relation to Aedyr?
The Living Lands are located in the far north of Eora. Aedyr is southwest of the Living Lands, situated along the equator.
How about the weather, the terrain? I need to know what to expect.
The Living Lands are more arid than Aedyr, and the island is more prone to storms. But its many deep valleys protect the various townships from the worst of the weather. Topographically speaking, the Living Lands are a place of extremes. Deep inland, mountains rise high enough to rival those of the White March, blanketed year-round in snow. While east of the volcano of Mount Forja is an acid sea that sinks far below the level of the ocean. The lands between them are riven with deep clefts in the earth and isolated by wastelands of sun-baked sand dunes.
Let's see. Let's read some of these. Mount Forja? An active volcano in the Galawain's Tusks region of the Living Lands. Anything else that we don't know about? Balrog? Massive creatures native to the Living Lands, frequently in hibernation, and rarely spotted in the wild. Legends tell that a Balrog's form reflects their preferred season and ecosystem, where they act as hunters and guardians. Okay. I had some other questions about the Living Lands.
I'll share what I can.
Who's in power here?
There is no singular authority in the Living Lands.
Not yet, anyway.
I shudder to think what the Living Lands would look like under your rule.
Well, to start, there'd be a lot more brothels.
Charming.
This guy fucks.
Powers invested
Big
in the leaders
time.
of the various townships scattered across the island. The largest are Fjord, Thirdborn, and Solace. None of which, I will note, are as safe and orderly as Paradise.
Well, what should I know about Fjord?
Fjord Messaverno is located in a valley known locally as the Emerald Stair, named for the terraced rice paddies that cover its hillsides. It is our closest neighbor. The city, if you can call it that, was founded 50 years ago by animancers from the Valian Republics. Apparently, the laws governing animancy weren't lenient enough in the Republics. So the city's founders came to the Living Lands, where they could practice their discipline more freely. Currently, Fjord is governed by a man named Ignacy Vidaro. Rather inept to hear the ambassador talk about him. Fjord's farmers supply most of the grain and vegetables we eat
I think we read
here
a
in
note from that guy.
Paradise. Or it did. Their shipments have been infrequent lately. Something about a blight in the fields. In any event, I believe that covers Fjord.
Let's see, can I learn more about Ignacy? Ignacy Vidaro is the governor of Fjord Messaverno, a city in the Emerald Stair region of the Living Lands. Alright, fair enough. I don't know much about the Valian Republics.
The Valian Republics are a collection of city-states in the Eastern Reach, southeast of our former colony, the Deerwood. The Republics began life as colonies of the Grand Empire of Valia, hence the name. But as Grand Valia's economy collapsed, well, the colony saw an opportunity to escape the influence of the Empire of Origin, and they seceded, much as the Deerwood did from Aedyr. Now a mature confederation in their own right, the Republics have recently indulged their own expansionist ambitions in the Deadfire archipelago. Through their merchants in the Valian Trading Company, the Republics will sell you anything you could ever wish to buy.
Up to and including people.
We should count ourselves lucky to have had no interest in the Living Lands. In a struggle between our Emperor and the Republic's great dukes, well, I doubt we would come out on top. But if anyone asks, I was not the one who told you that.
Okay. Huh. I wonder if there's going to be a... Like, is it in the cards for them to actually fight in one of the games? Alright, what's the story with the Thirdborn?
Everything you need to know about Thirdborn is in its name. It was founded by the Thirdborn children of Rauatai, Navy dropouts, smugglers, and hands for hire. Almawa and Orleans, mostly.
Home, sweet home.
You're free to go back any time you like.
I like my current circumstances just fine, thanks.
They are people, in short, who couldn't cut it in the civilized world, and had to make room on the margins. Unfortunately,
Jesus.
they are currently besieged by the Dream Scourge. We have sent some troops to lend what help we can, and the mayor, Temerity, was appropriately grateful, but I don't know how long they'll hold out.
I could stand to learn more, to know more about Rauatai.
Rauatai is one of the old empires, every bit as storied as Grand Valia or our native Aedyr. If Aedyr is to the southwest of the Living Lands, Rauatai is to the southeast. And unlike our home, their small continent is racked by terrible storms. This is due, or rather, was due, to the island's proximity to Andra's mortar, the unending super hurricane that once hid the ancient city of Ukaizo. Rauatai is largely peopled by Almawa, descended from those who fled the Deadfire archipelago centuries ago, when Andra pulled the moon, Ioni Brather, into the sea. They are an aggressive, militant culture, and personally I find their obsession with gunpowder rather quaint. They are also our chief rivals on the world stage.
I don't think they see it that way.
No?
Well, as far as Navy brass is concerned, Aedyr doesn't really rate.
Now you're just making things up.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we don't think about you at all.
God, they hit him with the fucking Don Draper special. Good lord. Let's see. So Ukaizo and Andra's Mortar, this is directly, like, for those who are unaware, this is directly what he said about the storms, the, like, unending hurricane suddenly ending. That's directly due to the events of, at the end of Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire. Andra's Mortar was a massive patch of ocean in the Deadfire archipelago that was racked with storms for centuries. The storms subsided around 2828 AI, opening the way to ancient mysteries and previously unexplored frontiers of Eora. Ukaizo was a mythical island hidden in the Deadfire archipelago. It was rediscovered in Andra's Mortar around 2828 AI. All but empty, save for the great and mysterious machines that towered over the ruined city. Eoni Brother. Right, and Andra pulling this moon into Eora is a major part of Pillars of Eternity 1's White March Part 1 and 2. Eoni Brother was a small moon that collided with Eora thousands of years ago. Ms. tell of the goddess Andra pulling the moon into her watery embrace. Fragments of Eoni Brother are still found around Eora. And I think also it got fragmented on account of Abaddon, right? Like hitting it. I don't think literally, but was it literally or like, I don't know if it was literally hitting the moon or like metaphysically, you know, or figuratively with his like smith's hammer and busting it up into fragments like it says. I can't remember. I played the White March Part 1 and 2 and Pillars 1 so long ago. Andra is the goddess of oceans, forgotten things, loss, relentlessness, and mourning. Her followers carry tokens of bad memories into the sea so they can be forgotten. Sailors in coastal towns make offerings to Andra in hope of keeping the tides low and the seas calm. Okay. What can you tell me about Solace?
Solace is...
Solace.
What is there to say, really?
Yeah, they tend to have that effect on people.
The trouble is, I don't know much about Solace. Nobody does. They are an isolationist community of Pogrunan dwarves who live in the forbidding ways of Galawain's tusks. They don't let outsiders into their lands, and they don't let their people out of them.
Some folks get out from time to time, but they can't ever go back. And the ones who survive aren't eager to talk about their experiences.
People aside, the land itself is incredibly hostile. The island's volcano, Mount Forja, rests at the heart of the region, and it's recently become active. Half the land is lava rock, and the other half is, well, literally lava. I don't know why anyone lives there. I have to assume they're all insane.
You have no idea.
Well, can you tell me anything about the Pogrunan dwarves?
Naturally. The Pogrunan are a unique community of mountain dwarves originating in Old Valia.
Oh, they're from
As a
Old
people,
Valia.
They've made their name as explorers, builders, miners. No doubt you've seen their ruins in your travels, here, back home in Aedyr, and all across the world. They maintain a rich tradition of oral storytelling, chanted magics, and ritual carving, which they take great pains to record and transmit across their various communities. Even the most physically isolated Pogrun is not alone. Somewhere, one of their people is thinking of them and planning an expedition. Abaddon must cherish them.
You sound like you admire them.
I suppose I do.
Okay, let me ask you something else.
I'm an open book.
I've been hearing a lot about this Inquisitor Ludwine. Who is she?
Consider yourself lucky. Inquisitor Ludwine is the commander of the Steel Garrote in Paradise. Were you to ask her, she'd say she keeps the peace. But she doesn't keep it so much as prosecute it. As ruthlessly as the ambassador will let her. She's also a veteran of the Steel Garrote's campaign in the Deadfire, where she died.
She's a Death Guard. Well, that explains a lot.
I don't know what happened to her there, but I suppose Boudica wasn't done with her yet.
Arcane Scholar. We had a Death Guard standing watch over the archives at Broggenhill. Oh. At the place where I studied. Let's see. Death Guard. Strong-willed individuals who refuse to die. Maybe I'm a bit of a Death Guard myself. They cling to life by maintaining a deep connection to some unresolved personal crusade, often tied to their faith. Rare and terrifying, Death Guards are some of Eora's most brutal and uncompromising villains. Okay. We had a Death Guard standing watch over the archives at Broggenhill.
Cryptic Neil! I remember
Neil?
him fondly.
Reception 03. You attended Broggenhill? What are you doing working as a clerk? Was that his name? I'd completely forgotten. You attended Broggenhill? What are you doing working as a clerk?
Don't look so surprised. Not every student of the university takes the field work like you. There are endless ways to serve the Empire, Envoy, particularly in the Living Lands. Here, there are no archives, no processes, all a blank slate for me to define. And I happen to like a warm bed and cool beer. Unlike back home, here in Paradise, we live within 100 miles of ice. But that's neither here nor there. We were discussing Death Guards.
Right. Tell me about Death Guards.
Death Guards are surpassingly rare. Some of the secretaries who traveled with our dignitaries in the Deadfire spoke of one named Iser, a devotee of Berith, who guards the hanging sepulchres there.
I've been to the
I've heard of
sepulcher.
none others except those I've read about in the histories. They are people, most often paladins or priests, so devoted to a cause that they simply refuse to pass on to the wheel when they die. Their soul haunts their body. The passion required to sustain them devours their flesh, and they swiftly turn to bone. I've never read a history nor tale of a Death Guard that did not end with them going quite mad. When they lose their capacity to care for anything but their cause, they cannot love. And when they cannot love, they cannot be merciful. And so everything before them becomes only an obstacle.
Did we meet this Ysir person? Maybe we did. In Pillars 2? What was Ludwine like before she became a Death Guard? What do you know about the Steel Garrote? Boudica, goddess of vengeance. Ludwine's chosen a challenging patron. I'd like to ask you about something else. I should head out. What was Ludwine like before she became a Death Guard?
I only met her once. She was a mid-level member of the Steel Garrote then, chasing Oathbreakers who'd fled Aedyran law. She'd come back to the Imperial archives to borrow a map to a place called Oathbinder's Sanctum. I remember she was furious because the map was quite poor. She worried about finding the place, about properly executing her duty to her god. She wanted, I think, to do a good job. So, while clearly she has changed, in some sense, I'd say she's much the same.
What do you know about the Steel Garrote?
Think upon your promises and die. That's the litany of the Steel Garrote, usually said right before they kill you. They're an order of paladins born and bred in Aedyr, though clearly they've found plenty of work beyond our borders. Their remit is simple but comprehensive. They punish all who break their oaths. In practice, that has historically meant contracts. One lord or merchant will hire the Steel Garrote to bring a duplicitous rival to justice.
Fun bunch. What are they doing in Paradise?
Since the events in the Deadfire, their operations have expanded. The Steel Garrote has always been associated with Boudica. Now, they are explicitly her order. And they go wherever Wodika's priests, or Wodika herself, believes there is a need for them to go. The Living Lands are a dangerous, lawless frontier in sore need of order. Thus, they are here. Or so the Steel Garrote say.
Wodika, goddess of vengeance. Ludwig's chosen a challenging patron.
Do you think so? I've always found her inflexibility comforting. Wodika's edicts are clear. If you obey her laws, pursue justice, punish the guilty, and give fealty to the Emperor, then you have pleased her, and I aim to please. But Wodika does not trust. She demands that you declare yourself for her again and again. Her every request is a test, and her every test is an opportunity to disappoint her. I appreciate a god who makes you work for their grace. I don't want anything given to me for free.
Jesus. Alright, I'd like to ask you about something else.
Of course.
He's such a hustler. He's a hustler for the gods. Wodika, also the god of hustling and grinding. Rise and grind, the Wodican way. I was told to meet with a watcher, but I don't know anything about them. What can you tell me?
I trust whomever told you to consult a watcher also told you to avoid the one in the city. She is a liar and a thief.
Oh, did you take your money?
No. Anyway, watchers are individuals capable of perceiving souls. The soul may be in a living body, or it may simply be lingering, waiting to pass into the in-between. In either case, interacting with a soul allows a watcher to glimpse a person's past lives or their most deeply buried memories. Watchers are incredibly rare, and in Aedyr, highly controlled. Many people wish to know who they were in a previous life, and do not like what they learn.
What happens to watchers in Aedyr? Are watchers dangerous? I'd like to ask you about something else. What happens to watchers in Aedyr? I don't remember this.
The smart ones stay hidden. They do not announce their powers, perhaps not even to themselves. Even a careful watcher risks inadvertently revealing themselves by knowing something they shouldn't know. Of the ones that are public, little is concretely known. But we hear things. They make good judges in Wodika's courts, so long as they're controlled. The lords, it's rumored, buy and sell them to collect blackmail on their enemies. But I suspect many watchers are imprisoned or executed, or simply kill themselves.
Are watchers dangerous? Could I become a watcher? Are there any famous watchers I should know about? I'd like to ask you about something else. Are watchers dangerous?
A watcher doesn't need your cooperation or consent to read your soul. They could learn everything about you, terribly damaging things about your parentage, for example, or things you did in a past life, without you ever knowing. You see how this could threaten the established order, undermine our betters' right to rule.
Yeah, but that's just one side to it. Imagine how a watcher feels, knowing what a threat they are to the status quo. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be keen on kings and emperors wanting me dead. Sounds like a lot of hassle.
Don't sell yourself short, Kai. I don't doubt you're an expert in people wanting you dead.
You're not wrong.
I rarely am. In any case, the Watcher is fundamentally a tragic figure. Of the few that survive our world, most are destined to go mad.
Could I become a watcher? Maybe I want to go mad. Could I become one?
Yes and no. So far as I understand it, a Watcher is born a Watcher. But it takes an event, often something shocking or traumatic, to bring a Watcher's powers to the fore. So you may be a Watcher, or I may be, or Kai, and we might not even know.
Are there any famous watchers I should know about? God, do you think they'll mention the protagonist of Pillars 1 and 2?
Well, the Watcher of Cadnua is legendary. It was their castle Aethys destroyed when he began his campaign of terror in the Deadfire. Oh, by the Queen, I hope I get to meet them someday. In terms of local interest, you'll have heard of Runid, of course. And there was Ida. You may not know about her. She was a Watcher from the Living Lands. I believe she was an Orlan. She must have died, 150 years ago. slain by a great serpent gods treat kindly with her soul. Doubtless there are others, but most don't meet a good end.
I'm not familiar with Ida. Oh, Perception 04. Runeed. Right. Who is the local one? Is that what you're saying? Runeed is the local watcher? Okay. Oh man, I wonder if this would be about the Watcher of Cadnua. Alright, I'd like to ask you about something else.
I'm an open book.
You're the ambassador's secretary, what's he like?
Well, you'll notice I'm nearly always here. If that man sleeps, I don't know about it. He wouldn't say, but I believe he relied on the claviger far more than he lets on. And without the claviger's steady hand at the rudder, the ambassador's struggling just to bail water from the sinking ship that is Paradise.
Claviger Aemon might have tolerated a little more chaos than the ambassador liked, but he kept this place humming. He's not someone you can easily replace, and not with one man alone.
It's a difficult job. The pressure sometimes gets the better of him. But if he loses his temper now and then, I can't blame him for it. Better him than me.
What's he like when he's not working?
He doesn't know what to do with himself. You know, in our first days here, he'd often walk to the end of the docks at sunrise. The work was done, the embassy was closed, and he'd still be wearing the same clothes he'd slept in at his desk. And he'd just stare out over the sea. He always seemed dissatisfied back then. I suppose, years later, he still does.
Huh. You don't want his job?
Don't be serious. Most of us here didn't get sent to the frontier because we were anybody's favorite. The longer I'm here, the more likely the people who matter are to forget me. And I'd actually like to get back to High Crown someday. Get married, have a few kids, take the civil exams, and settle into a permanent clerkship.
I guess there are worse ways to spend a life.
Like rotting in this embassy.
Okay, I'd like to ask you about something else. I don't think we have anything else.
By all means.
Yeah, I should head out.
Should you ever need me, I will be here. Safe travels, Envoy.
Okay. Man, geez, we got quite the reality lowdown there.
Still can't believe you're alive.
Tane's diary? Or Tan's diary? No, this is Tane, right? God, I met Tane. Yeah, look. Tane the Archmage. Dear Diary, here I am in the living lands. This island might not be the safest vacation spot, but it's certainly the most colorful. Also the most flavorful, according to these mushrooms, and mushrooms seldom lie. Before I forget, I promise Bakarna I'd bring back a souvenir. God, I remember Bakarna vaguely. There's rumor of a fallen star in Emerald Stair. Could be a nice addition to her collection. A message is scribbled on the inside cover. If found, please return to Tane the Archmage, author of Tane's Chaotic Orb. Right. Which I don't think we can cast in this game. Steel Garrote Report. We found this book on a public bench. After careful study, our scribe confirmed the handwriting matches the signature found on scrolls of Tane's Chaotic Orb. Be advised that Tane is in the living lands. As a member of the Circle of Archmagi, he has license to go where he pleases. We will observe him at a distance, but no one is to engage him. Tane is either a harmless fool or one of the most dangerous people alive. We simply can't take that chance. Right. And oftentimes the spell that these Archmagi have created is in some way indicative of their personality or an aspect of it. And Tane is, I don't know, very chaotic neutral, I guess. The Aedyran Empire Part 2, Expanding Borders. Oh shit, quite the read. Fuck it, we've been getting a lot of lore lately, we may as well read it. The Aedyran Empire Part 2, Expanding Borders. In 2602 AI, Aedyran explorers returned from over the ocean, telling tales of the ruins and treasures there and of expansive fields that were perfect for growing Vorlis. Vorlis is actually what Saint Widwin the farmer that I had mentioned a while back, a while ago, is what they were farming, and are typically used for dye, right? It is used for coloration. I think usually it's like a purpley indigo, which is relevant because purple and indigo is, typically a color associated with royalty, and is, as we've seen, associated with the Aedyran Empire, right? They use it in their banners and whatnot. It's, from what I remember, it is extremely lucrative, right? Farming Vorlis, or at least trading in it. Farming it, maybe not so much, but trading in it, true enough. Anyway, the explorers warned the... Oh my gosh. I've never remember how to say this, but it's the First King. The First King that the locals were not friendly to outsiders. But the First King, seeing this as an opportunity to extend his empire and secure trade on another continent, sent more explorers. Over the next 20 years, the area that would become the Dyrwood was investigated, mapped, and colonized. In 2623, the first permanent Aedyran colonial settlements were established. Vorlis fields were set up north of the forests in the Dyrwood, but between, and keep in mind, Dyrwood is the location of Pillars 1. But between the conflicts with the Glanfathans and the War of the Broken Stone, it floundered. It wasn't until 2643 that the opportunity presented itself again. Some Aethasian pilgrims wanting to escape persecution established colonies and Vorlis farming operations in the territory of Eoran. With Grand Valia on the verge of collapse, the First King wanted to ensure his hold on the purple dye trade would be established. He encouraged the settlement and even paid to have the pilgrims set up in the New World. Because the First King was still trying to secure his name in the purple dye trade, he was unable to properly respond to Admeth Hadrid. Oh my god, Hadrid House! Oh, I forgot about them. When he issued his ultimatum, to avoid a rebellion and leave himself time to oversee the Vorlis farms in Eoran, the First King relented and made Admeth a grave palatine. In return for this concession, Admeth spent time and resources on the Dyrwood's trade and shipping routes, but benefiting the First King with increased income. For 7 years, the Dyrwood provided Aedyr with a steady income, leaving the First King time to ensure his trade system in Eoran was strong. With the First King's attention everywhere, Admeth instituted the 10 Years, treaties ending slavery in the Dyrwood, and permanently removing one of the revenue sources provided by the Dyrwoodan explorers. The artifacts from the ruins scattered throughout the Dyrwood, removing one of the revenue sources provided by the Dyrwoodan explorers. The artifacts from the ruins scattered throughout the Dyrwood, right, the Glanfathan ruins. And Ingwithan ruins that Glanfathans mostly occupied, who were like, indigenous. At this point, the First King's word meant almost nothing to the citizens of the Dyrwood. Admeth Hadrid had replaced him as their true leader. In order to undermine Admeth's standing, the First King found allies willing to explore the ruins, again, against the treaty conditions, and plunder them. Soon, Aedyr again had a supply of artifacts to sell. When his agents were eventually caught, the First King distanced himself from the operation, certain there was no way to link him to the proceedings. But the Grave used means, I think that's how you say that in Pillars world, because like I said, a lot of it, especially when concerning the Dyrwood and the Aedyran Empire, is using like old Celtic pronunciations, I believe. Using means provided to him by his Glanfathan allies, discovered the evidence needed to prove the First King was behind the plunderers. The conflict that arose from this revelation led to Admeth declaring independence for the Dyrwood in 2668 AI. After a bloody 4-year-long war that resulted in the death of Admeth, the First King relented. Trying to keep control of the Dyrwood had become too costly. He signed treaties with the new Duke of the Dyrwood and returned his attention to Eoran, redoubling efforts on the Vorlis trade, which is still running today. I'm assuming that book is up to date, because I'm pretty sure it appeared in Pillars, right? Contrary letter. Ambassador Hylgard, I have maintained order in Paradise for many years. I know this city. When there is a good leader and fair policy, there is peace. But you have allowed the Steel Garrote to terrorize my people, to sow distrust and fear. I suggest you tighten your Inquisitor's leash, or the embassy might not carry your banners for long. Claviger Aemond. And Claviger Aemond has turned up dead. Aedyr Customs. And we're just gonna be lore heavy this time in this video. Aedyr is a country, right, which like I've said before, Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 are no stranger to this, and they're maybe even worse, right, with just giving you way too much and very dense lore, which is very difficult to parse, I think, for new players. And yeah, definitely Avowed seems to be no exception to that. Aedyr is well, no exception, but definitely not quite as intense as it was in Pillars 1 and 2. Aedyr is a country rich with custom, and they are known for their strict adherence to them. Their customs run the gamut from grand celebrations, like the Feast of Feasts, to mundane superstitions, such as ways to avoid Svef addiction. This volume will focus primarily on bigger celebrations, as no one knows how to throw an extravagant party quite like an Aedyran. The Feast of Feasts. The biggest and most important of all Aedyran customs is the Feast of Feasts. This week-long celebration happens the first week of Fenestu, Deep Summer, and is dedicated to honoring the life of the first king. Each day of the week is devoted to some aspect of the first king's life, and there are very specific dishes to be served at each meal. The Feast of Feasts originally began as a festival celebrating the birth of the first king's first son, and soon became a yearly occurrence during the week of his birthday. Currently, Aedirans simply use it as an excuse for a party, and pull out all the stops in an effort to outdo the previous year. Unless you wonder, as I did, which first king is honored during the Feast of Feasts, it is always the current first king, for each first king is the first and only first king. Sweet treat. A special custom that arose at some point during the Feast of Feasts. Sweet treat started as a way to keep children occupied so the parents could dine in peace. While it is still used for that today, significance has been added to it. Each treat is placed in a container, usually small metal boxes, and hidden somewhere on the property. After everything has been hidden, the children are sent out to find the treasures. It is said that the hidden treats represent Glonfathan artifacts, and the children are the explorers, bringing the riches back to their new and rightful owners. Carnival of the Mask. When the original colonists for Aedyr traveled to the new land and found the Deerwood in the name of the Aedyran first king, they encountered the Glonfathan people. The Carnival of the Mask celebrates this meeting. Originally, it was merely a formal reenactment, as a play, of the tensions between the Glonfathans and Aedyran settlers. But it has since evolved into much more than that. Participants choose sides and come dressed in elaborate outfits depicting which group they have decided to align themselves with, Aedyrans or Glonfathans. Everyone attends a masquerade ball, and this party replaces any semblance of the play that was presented. Jesus Christ. I don't remember it being so fucking problematic. Alright. Winter's End was never anything more than an excuse for a celebration, and it hasn't changed in all the years it has existed in Aedyr. It takes place during winter dusk and lasts all 3 days. People use the time to reflect on the year, celebrate their lives, and remember the dead, especially those who have passed in recent year. Good read. There we go. I think I had read Aedyran Empire Part 1, right? I think I had already read that. No? Let's see. Documents, lore. Yeah. Yeah, I totally had read it. Okay. Yeah, the Aedyr Empire Part 1 Origin. At Dawnshore is where I found it. And this one I found at... Oh, it doesn't list it there. Okay. Sure. Huh. Weird how this is doubly classified. Okay, fair enough. Contains diary, yep. Wasn't sure if I could, like, add it. Okay, over here.
Envoy, is it really you?
Yeah, you don't remember me? What have you got over here? Aedyran dialects? Letter to the Inquisitor? Holy shit. Ambassador Hylgard's journal? Unsent letter. Okay, let's talk with the ambassador first.
I can't believe you're alive. When they dragged you to Liviona's clinic, I assumed the worst. How do you feel?
Do you think it was him? Do you think he's the one who did it? Right? Like in the same way that it's an inside job. Someone tried to get rid of the Claviger. They also tried to get rid of me. Constitution 4-1. Disoriented, lightheaded. My pulse is racing. Constitution 4-4. As vigorous as a drake in rut. Resolve 4-1. Well, I have considered chartering a boat back to Aedyr. Ready to get to work? Fine. So who killed me? Groan pitifully. Like I've come back from the dead. Constitution 4-4. As vigorous as a drake in rut.
Not even death can slow you down, I see. But we'll return to the topic of your untimely demise shortly. Our first order of business is your purpose here in the Living Lands. Captain Cynric said you have a missive for me from the Emperor.
Yeah, I wonder if he knows. Right? Do you think the Ambassador Hylgard knows and was behind my attempted assassination? I definitely think it was an inside job, right? And they're probably going to set it up as it being like local civil unrest, right? But it's someone making a power play. Probably Ludwig, right? I could see it being the Steel Garrote. But what if it's even more than that? Give him the Emperor's missive. Here you are, Ambassador. Give him the Emperor's missive. I hope this was worth all the trouble. Give him the Emperor's missive. Glad to finally be rid of this thing. Here you are, Ambassador.
Very good. I'm eager to see what our Emperor intends. Now, His Majesty names you a loyal servant of the Aedyran Empire, and an extension of the throne's authority. Thank goodness. At least someone understands the gravity of our situation.
Might 4-4. Great. Message delivered. Let's talk about my payment. His Majesty is concerned the Crown's efforts in the Living Lands could be jeopardized by the Dream Scourge. The Emperor sent me to investigate the Dream Scourge. Let's be as formal as possible here. His Majesty is concerned the Crown's efforts in the Living Lands could be jeopardized by the Dream Scourge.
With that, I have better news for him. You've seen how wild the Living Lands has become, both in nature and in politics. Sometimes I think the island has a mind of its own. No sooner had you arrived than you found yourself at the center of our troubles.
Maybe it has something to do with my godlike nature. I also found an arrow in my guts. Let's not be so jokey here. I also found an arrow in my guts. Nah, that doesn't feel right for my character. I think I'm a little too stern. Maybe it has something to do with my godlike nature.
At this point, I can't rule anything out. We're in uncharted waters.
Maybe stern isn't the right word, but by the book.
This embassy has no shortage of political foes, but the Dream Scourge is what keeps me up at night. You've seen firsthand what it can do in nature. We can't let it reach the cities.
Resolve 4-3. I'll get to the bottom of the Dream Scourge, Ambassador, whatever it takes. Then we better get to work. Frown thoughtfully, assuming it's not already here. 4. You should have sent for me sooner. Now it may be too late. Dream Scourge. Where'd the name come from anyway? Let's do the resolve check. Well, can I ask about this without progressing? Yeah, let's see if, like, following up with a question lets me return back to this to make a proper choice. Because it's pretty low stakes here, right? Let's just find out. Where'd the name come from anyway?
No doubt some superstitious peasant toiling in the fields. The Living Lands has plenty of both. Inquisitor Ludwig thinks the plague is a distraction. She's more concerned about these local rebels fighting against the Empire.
Whoa. An int and perception check I can't pass. As she should be. Tell me about these rebels. Who are they? Is the Living Lands worth all this trouble? Tell me about the rebels. Who are they?
They were paradisans once, law-abiding laborers. Now, they're fugitives and oath-breakers hiding amongst the populace. They've sabotaged our work, killed our soldiers, and the final straw, attacked you out in the open.
Why go after me? I just got here. Killing me was bold, I'll give them that. Such blatant disrespect cannot go unavenged. Such blatant disrespect cannot go unavenged.
Indeed. The killer sent a message, but this is our chance to send one in return. I won't lie to you, Envoy. Our position is tenuous. If we can't even defend ourselves, how are we to defend the Living Lands? But defend it we must, for the sake of everyone who calls this island home. Inquisitor Ludwig demands that someone hang for the attempt on your life. These Paradisan rebels must face justice.
I like how he's like, defended. Dog, defended from who? We're the aggressors here. Who are we defending it from but ourselves? Right? The only defense it needs is from the Aedyran Empire, like, encroaching upon everybody. Where is this Inquisitor Ludwig? I keep hearing about. The Dream Scourge is my top priority. Sounds like she's the one who's really in charge around here. I'll be the one to decide the punishment, if any. A little frontier justice is good for morale. A little frontier justice is good for morale.
You sound like a Rauataian admiral.
I have no taste for it, but our Inquisitor has other ideas. Ludwig goes where she likes, haunting the Living Lands like a vengeful spirit. She'll reappear when she chooses, and not a moment sooner. Let's make sure to give her some good news for a change.
Not many get a chance to solve their own murder, you know. I know someone who could help. A dwarven tracker named Marius. Kith or beast, there's little he can't find. He's staying at the Grinning Ballarrock, not far from Liviana's infirmary. We just take the main road east to the market, then head down the stairs and cross the canal. Rough part of town, even by the standards of Paradise.
A tracker? Kai, we're not hunting deer. You've proven to be capable so far. What can he do that you can't? I'll consider him. Thanks for the recommendation. Let's be a little flabbergasted by the suggestion. A tracker? Kai, we're not hunting deer.
No, but this is the Paradisans' home. They're very good at hiding here. And Marius is good at finding things that want to remain hidden. Marius is from the Tycg, about the harshest and remotest place the gods ever created, even by the standards of the Living Lands.
Trickery, lies. The gods did not build this place.
Let's just say no one survives out there without picking up a few skills, the kind we'll need if we're going to find hidden assassins. Especially if they're from the streets of Paradise.
I suggest you recruit as many allies as you can, but choose carefully. They, like you, will represent the Empire.
Sorry, just wanted to check what the voice was specifically responding to. Marius is from the Tycg, about the harshest and remotest place the gods ever created, even by the standards of the Living Lands. Trickery, lies. The gods did not build this place. Could the voice be something that existed before the existence of the gods
returning?
returning?
Send you off to parts unknown.
Oh,
We
it
need
paused the
assurances
dialogue.
from the local healer that you're fully recovered. After all, you survived a brush with death. The health of your body is one thing. The health of your soul is another.
Arcane Scholar. I can figure that out myself. Just point me toward the nearest lab. Liviana suggested I visit a Watcher. I feel fine, if that's your concern. Are the living lands so dangerous my soul is at risk? Let's go with the Scholar one. I can figure that out myself. Just point me toward the nearest lab.
I'm sure that a scholar of your prestige is more than capable of self-diagnosis, but time is of the essence.
Of the essence, it was highlighted.
The assassin is out there. You have the element of surprise. I suggest you use it.
Arcane Scholar. My colleagues at the Imperial Archives are never going to believe this. Let's get on with it then. My assassin could be anywhere by now. Kai, I need you by my side. Can I count on you? Wish me luck, Ambassador. Let's go with another Scholar check. My colleagues at the Imperial Archives are never going to believe this.
You'll have tales aplenty, that's for certain. And a long tapestry of battle scars. We'll talk more of the Dream Scourge when you return. Until then, Envoy.
How about we start with Marius at the Grinning Balrog? Besides, I could use a drink after all this.
Okay. Sure. Well, first, let's look through all your shit here. Ambassador's Journal. I must admit, it is proving impossible to build diplomatic relations. The locals have a natural distrust of outsiders, and we have nothing they want. Inquisitor Ludwig believes that time and pressure will prevail. Would that I shared her confidence. Ludwig, under her gaze, I feel scrutinized, down to the bone, picked apart like carrion, and stared through by a pair of cold, motionless eyes that have glimpsed too far beyond the veil, reducing me to some depraved pilgrim who prays only for her ossified claws to work their way under my skin, liberating me from this pathetic envelope until at last we're bound together as a skeletal pair, limbs intertwined not as two beings but as one. Jesus! Oh my god, but as one. There is no shame. Oh, you are? Yeah, you are horny for Ludwig. There's no shame in being attracted to power. Nevertheless, I must keep such feelings to myself, lest they be met with revulsion, or worse, enthusiasm. Huh. Okay, unsent letter. From Ambassador Hylgard. Claviger Aemond, I know the blighting of the Strangleroot is a cause for concern, but I must strongly discourage any trade deal that involves buying additional crops from Fiorme Iverno. We cannot endorse the blasphemous trade of animancy, much less welcome it to our dinner tables. Ambassador Hylgard. Yeah, so maybe Hylgard almost dying. Well, I guess there's either way you could read it, right? Maybe if Ludwig is somehow behind a lot of this and there's like some grand conspiracy at play, Ludwig maybe would want to get rid of Hylgard for being annoying and for being like obviously attracted to her, right? And they aren't, right? Remember, Death Guards oftentimes, depending on how long they've been a Death Guard, are not ones for emotion, right? So it may be that she's annoyed by Hylgard if she's at that point. Similarly, maybe she does like Hylgard still and hasn't yet gotten to that point, and that's why Hylgard is alive and the Claviger isn't, you know? We just don't know enough to commit. Letter to the Inquisitor. Inquisitor, I have been in Emerald Stair long enough to confirm our worst suspicions. The people of Fiorme's Averno care not for the laws of mortals or gods. Animancy and folk magic are peddled in defiance of Wotica. Their crimes are innumerable, their way of life intolerable. All is not lost. Politically, they're unstable, too focused on themselves to notice us, our eager hands tightening the garrote. We await your order. Your friend in the forest. Aedyran dialects. Holy shit. Okay. I remember reading this in Pillars. Alright, like I said, this can be a lore-heavy one, you know? Why not? Aedyran dialects. The sun does not set on the Aedyran language. Those of us who commune with this proud language or some derivation of it populate every corner of Eora. Most of us who speak this wonderful tongue know it as Aedyran, but scholars and those obsessed with correctness often qualify it as modern or contemporary Aedyran. This is to contrast the language you and I speak today with Eld Aedyran, the old elven language that was spoken in the Aedyran Empire back before the pioneer settlers of the Dyrwood built their longships. If Eld Aedyran could be considered the mother of the living Aedyran, the language of Hillspeak could be seen as Aedyran's cousin. Hillspeak is fading from common use, but many of the elves, especially the older one, in the Aedyran heartland still use this dialect. Whether you know it or not, if you can read these words, you can understand Hillspeak. It is almost identical to Aedyran, but includes a large vocabulary of archaic words that have fallen out of use in today's Aedyran. When you hear bards sing old Aedyran poems, there are often lines of chorus that sound like melodic nonsense inserted to complete rhymes. These are usually instances of words that are lost from our common language, but still used in Hillspeak. While Hillspeak is familiar to speakers of so-called modern Aedyran, the same cannot be said of our language's predecessor. Eld Aedyran is a dead language, spoken by academics, but not used in any major community. Eld Aedyran words are often familiar to Aedyran readers, but the words use orthography that has since been abandoned. Unfamiliar accents marks abound. For example, Eld Aedyran contains some diphthongs that have no place in the modern Aedyran, as well as a few tricky consonant clusters. EA creates an Eya sound that sounds like the colloquial salutation, heya. EO sounds like Ayo. This sound is still used in the modern word Eora. A is pronounced IE, such as O. A is pronounced as I, such as in Wraith. Eight? Okay. UE and U with an umlaut, or whatever that's called, both create oo sounds, as in loop. Y sounds like an E, sounds in B. GJ sounds like the consonant Y, as in U. SC sounds like SH, so you'd pronounce scop like shop. CG sounds like the DGE end of a word like hedge. Jesus Christ. I don't know if I did read this now. This might be new. It is not uncommon for the names of Aedyrans, Dyrwoodins, Inraid Sarens to come from Eld Aedyran. Some examples. Aldwin is pronounced Aldween because of the long vowel sound on the Y. Durinsk is pronounced Durnish since the final SC cluster sounds like an SH sound. Jester, pronounced Yester on account of the GJ consonant cluster. Sledge is pronounced like sledge. Thrish is pronounced Thirsch. Usgrim is Ushgrim and not Usgrim. Ingmar is pronounced Ingmar, leading with a vowel sound. Oh my god, yeah, I don't know if this was actually in Pillars 1. I definitely remember there being at least one pronunciation guide, but I don't know if this was it. Right? Holy shit. Yeah, like I said, incredibly fucking dense, right? Very difficult to parse. Especially when you have other parts of the world that are difficult to parse in their own way. You also get just like language and like dates and all of that, which are also kind of difficult to parse in their own unique way too. Right? Holy hell. Well, that person has a quest for me. Okay. Alright, maybe we call it here for now. And when next we return, maybe we go to the Grinning Balrog and get this Marius dude who sounds like, I believe, is going to be a follower, right? And I believe we can have two at once. So until next time, please take care of each other.